All right, today I'm here with Mo and Quan, and I want to talk about JJK. We know JJK has the internet on fire right now, but um, obviously there's two communities, right? You got the ones who wait and sit to watch the manga, and the ones who wait to watch the anime, and the ones who read the manga, right? Because of Mo, I found myself reading the manga, which is something I haven't done in the past, right? But he told me Gojo and Sukuna are fighting right now, and I was impatient. I couldn't wait any longer. So I went up, I picked up the manga and I started reading it. But I got you two here today, and I want to know, now it's all said and done. Major spoiler alerts. If you haven't read the manga, then maybe you should stop this video and come back at a later time. But I want to talk about Gojo versus Sukuna. Was it a good fight? Um, is the winner of that fight overpowered? What do you feel about the fight? Daquan, I'll let you go first.
I'm not gonna lie, I got a lot to say about this fight. It was a good fight. So it was a great fight. When it gets animated, it might go down as like a top 3 anime fight ever. But the thing I have a problem with, especially with the new chapter that just came out, is that it seems like the writer is rushing the ending.
Okay.
Like it's not, the deaths don't make sense. The fight was phenomenal, but after the fight, how Sukuna's plot armor is just ridiculous. Like it's like, okay, you're supposed, like, during the fight, it seems pretty even during the fight. You get the upper hand during the fight, you off Gojo, and then all of a sudden there's more caveats coming out, like, oh, he didn't use this, he didn't use that, he wasn't even going full strength, going hard. So I'm like, yo, and it's understandable, right? Because with Kenjaku dead, Sukuna is the main villain. Like, there's literally nobody after this, so you kind of have to drag this out. And Gigi, the author, he said from jump he didn't like Gojo. In my opinion, Gojo would have been off Gojo if he had the chance, but the fans wanted him. So the Gojo and Sukuna fight, it was built up since the first season, and Gojo being the strongest sorcerer of his generation versus the strongest sorcerer ever, you would think it would be more even, and that's the way it seemed during the fight. But then after the fight with the new chapters, like, it wasn't even close. Like, he makes it seem like Sukuna could have beat him at any time. Like, Gojo never had the upper hand ever. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with a lot of that. I remember week to week as it was coming out. Mo and I talked about this a lot, and we had like differing opinions. I'll jump in. I'll give you my opinion. Personally, I thought Gojo was gonna win the fight, but then I thought he would be nerfed, right? Because when I was reading this, I thought Kenjaku was gonna be the main villain, and that's what I really enjoyed about Jujutsu Kaisen. I was like, yo, this is different. It's not just strongest versus strongest. You know what I'm saying? It really seemed like, Kenjaku and Yuji, they had this feud, right? They were on a collision course for this feud, the backstory, everything that had been built up, right? So I thought, that's what it was leading to, but we had to get this fight, right? It was the most entertaining fight. So I thought Gojo would win, but I thought he would be nerfed. I thought maybe he could coach them, maybe give them some inspirational words, but I didn't think there was any more fighting for Gojo after this, right? That was my opinion.
Wait, why? Why you thought he would win though? It seemed pretty obvious that he was going to lose. Like,
so in my opinion, when I was watching the fight, like I said, for me, I thought Kenjaku was the main villain, right? Because the plot has always been around, what he was putting together, right? I understood that Sukuna was the strongest villain, just like I understood Gojo was the strongest hero, but Gojo wasn't the main character, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what I started thinking about Sukuna. Like, wow, Sukuna's not even the main villain; it's Kenjaku. So as I was watching the fight and as the fight's going on, right, almost like you said, it never really felt like Sukuna had a decisive control on the fight. Even when it was 3v1, they were still going back and forth. Then Gojo was coming back. Gojo was holding his own. Like I said, if you don't read anything else and you stop right at the fight end when Gojo dies, you say, wow, That was one hell of a fight. They really went at it. You know what I'm saying? But here's my gripe with Jujutsu Kaisen. I feel like when I watch a fight, if someone is like that dominant and holding back, I should be able to feel it as I'm reading it or as I'm watching it. You
Yes.
shouldn't have to tell me. And that's what I feel like. I feel like to justify Sukuna now, I feel like Gege continues to tell us. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to tell me. I want to be able to feel that. You know what I'm saying? Like I can give you an example per se, right? And it's going to be the example that everybody uses, right? But when Madara first came, you felt it. You didn't. Nobody had to tell you. You just felt it, right? So I felt like when the fight was over, I'm like, damn, that was one hell of a fight. Then you give me the chapter of Gojo saying, you know what? I don't even know if he was going all out, and I was just like, that kind of just unwinded such a special moment, in my opinion. Such a great fight we just had, because now you have to tell me how strong this guy is to validate. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really feel that. Go ahead, Mo.
Yeah, so both of you guys made some good points. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
So great point. So when I was watching even throughout the series, when I was telling Rue, like, hey, you got to watch this fight. This is going to be a fantastic fight. I think from the start of the actual series, I think Sukuna's been hyped up in the same fashion that Madara was hyped up in his own universe in Naruto, right? Like Sukuna, this many fingers, he was just a destructive energy sequence in the hand ever. Nobody could stop him. So he was kind of propelled to be, of course, this villain. And I love the fact that it wasn't a typical trope where a villain or a demon such as Sukuna would end up turning into being a good guy. I like the fact that he remained an evil villain, right? So I ultimately, from there on out, I kind of knew that Sukuna will ultimately be the final villain until, of course, now with the information about the merger, whatever that creature becomes, that might end up being the end game villain. We don't know. So I kind of always knew that Sukuna would be kind of the final villain over Kenjaku. I just thought that Kenjaku was essentially a mastermind of things, but I would have been okay with Kenjaku being a final villain as well, since he was a fantastic character, you know. But nevertheless, going back to the Gojo and Sukuna fight specifically, I do feel like the fight was fantastic. There were definitely certain points in the fight that I may not that I have a gripe with. But overall, I do feel like Gege did do a great job, at least of leaving hints throughout the story and then bringing it back up so it made sense. So I don't necessarily have an issue between the fight because we see this happen all the time in shonen tropes, right? Where the main character has an upper hand over the villain, even like that last sequence, like where the people that's watching the fight saying Gojo's gonna win. Whenever that happens in any shonen, he's gonna lose. We see it happen time and time again. So when I knew Sukuna was going to win the fight, just because there's many different factors, right? One, Sukuna decides to leave the cage, which was inhibiting him, which is Yuji, right? He decides to take Megami's body as a result. So he has the 10 shadows technique, right? And he kind of uses Maharaga to help bypass Gojo's infinity, right? More importantly, there was more secrets about Sukuna that we did not know of. So Sukuna losing to Gojo at that particular point in time, or even dying at that, made no sense because he had abilities that we have yet to see. The black box ability, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
So there was many different facets of Sukuna that we did not necessarily get, which was a true sign that Gojo was going to lose or die, right? So I kind of knew Gojo was going to die. And I remember me and Rue was going back and forth, and I was like, yo, Gojo's going to lose, right? I don't see him beating Sukuna, who's primed up to be the strongest sorcerer throughout history, right? And then Gojo, special talent, you know, can compete, but I will say this. I was very surprised by how well Gojo was doing in that fight. And I think Gege made it to where the fight was closer than it needed to be. But I think it's also for the shock value for when Gojo died, which he got, right? Because once Gojo got split in half, everyone was shocked about it. And that shock value actually increased JJK's viewership, right? So I think the writing was intended for that.